I'm Sylvie, a 25-year-old housewife. As little girls, we often dream about our perfect wedding day. Our long white dress, our flowing veil, our Prince Charming on a white horse. I was no different. Some of my cousins and I would go as far as cutting out our wedding dresses and accessories from a magazine and post them on placard boards. Perfection. But with all our wild ideas of picture-perfect homes and manicured lawns with white picket fences and 2 children and a dog, one thing was always neglected. In truth, it wasn't anything that we even thought to plan for. And that was mother-in-laws. Truthfully, I'm pretty easygoing, so it was hard to fathom not getting along with anyone. So when my fiancé and I announced our engagement to our families, we expected them to be happy for us because we were so happy. And they were for a while. Until after the wedding. That was when I started to encounter my first bout of malcontent within the family ranks. My family loved my husband Ian and thought of him and treated him as their own. As long as he kept his promise to treat me kindly and protect me, he was their son. Because my family was so close-knit and loving, I didn't expect anything less. Ian and I decided early on that we would not be living with any of our in-laws. Both of us have seen relatives' marriages crash and burn because of this. So, during our engagement period, we spent most of our time working and saving our money to buy our first modest home. He had been living in it for a month before I actually moved in myself. Then our gleeful honeymoon period was quickly dashed when he received a text message from his mother out of the blue. "Ian, it's your mama. Pick me up at the train station. I'll be there in about 20 minutes. Ian and I looked at each other, eyes wide. He exclaimed. "What the heck? Why is she coming here?" "I don't know. Calm down. We'll get to the bottom of it when she gets here." I tried to be the voice of reason, but inwardly I was having a temper tantrum. Of all of Ian's family members, it was his mother who was not so kind towards me. Her tongue was venomous, though she was clever in not letting anyone else see her hatred towards me. I shuddered at the thought of being here with her. But it couldn't be helped. She was already here. Ian took both of my hands in his. "Don't worry. I won't allow her to stay long. I won't let her ruin our time alone together. I'll make her stay in a hotel or something." I could see a slight bit of panic on his face, so I wanted to ease his worry. "She's your mother. How can we put her in a hotel? That won't be fair, and that's not how we should treat our family." "It's okay." But I didn't know my words would come back to bite me one day. It was not okay. It started right away. As soon as my husband brought her into the house, she sent him to get a list of groceries from the store. She coaxed him to leave by promising to prepare his favorite meal. I conveyed through eye contact that I think it would be okay, then he reluctantly left, promising to be back quickly. Because it was just me and Ian living here, and our move-in was recent, there was not much in disarray. Before the wedding, the women in my family came to do a thorough cleaning of the place so Ian and I could concentrate on each other instead of the mundane drudgery of housework. It was much appreciated, especially since I knew I would probably be saddled with the bulk of the house cleaning. Without saying one word to me, my mother-in-law headed straight to the kitchen. She started opening the cupboards and drawers, then slamming them shut. Then the refrigerator. Then slammed that door. "I can see by how your kitchen is arranged, you're not much of a cook," she said. "What do you mean?" "I knew my son would need me here. He's blinded by you now, but he'll soon see you're a worthless wife." Her words were cutting. She did not hold her tongue when it came to insulting me. "What do you mean, worthless?" "I cook for my husband," I countered. "There's hardly any food in your pantry and your refrigerator is nearly bare. He's a man, he needs food. When he was growing up, I fed him well. I didn't skimp on my duty. I'm not shirking my duty to my husband. We eat 3 square meals a day," I said. But I was quickly wishing I hadn't allowed my husband to leave me here with his shrew of a mother. "Lucky for him, I suspected you'd be a good-for-nothing wife. I could tell by how your family doted on you. Like they think you're some sort of princess or something." Well, I'll bring you down to your rightful position. You'll see. She began banging pots and pans and making a loud ruckus in the kitchen. I grabbed the spare apron and began to wrap it around my waist. What are you doing? Get out of the kitchen. I don't need a useless woman like you hovering around me. You'll just get in my way. Make yourself useful somewhere else. I was stunned. Although she was generally cold and short when talking to me, and oftentimes outright dismissive, this was the first time she was being outwardly combative. But this was Ian's mother. For his sake I tried to maintain whatever civility was left between us. It was nearly a month and she was still here. Usual life had already begun and we had gone back to work. Where we should have been lively and refreshed, we were feeling run down and plain exhausted. My co-workers noticed the change in me right away. I hate to bring it up, but is the honeymoon period over already? Leah asked when she saw me for the first time since the wedding. It's not my husband, but his mother, I said through clenched teeth. What? Your mother-in-law moved into your house. How could you let that happen? Leah seemed genuinely concerned. I didn't let her move in. She just popped up unannounced and left us with no choice. It's truly been hell, for both of us. Ian's at his wit's end with her. Leah said, when I got married, I told my husband I would divorce him if he thought to bring his ungrateful family into our home. You should tell him. I love my husband. I'm not going to divorce him over this. Besides, he's having as hard a time as I am, by her being there. Don't worry about us, we'll think of something. Hopefully soon. Then another one of her campaigns started. It sent my husband and I reeling. My mother-in-law went in on me one night during dinner. When are you going to quit your job? You can't be a proper housewife while working. Don't think you can be a neglectful wife because you're working. The only reason my son is eating is no thanks to you. If I hadn't prepared this dinner for him, he'd come home to an empty plate and have an empty stomach. I didn't ask you to cook for me, did I? I'm fully capable of taking care of our needs. I appreciate what you've done for us to this point, but it's not necessary, I said as calmly as I could, but I was seething at her words. Stop it. That's enough. Why are you always trying to pick a fight with Sylvie? Neither of us asked for your help. If you're not doing this out of your own kindness, then there's no need, Ian said. He put his fork down, making a loud clanging sound, then got up from the table. Look what you've done. You've gotten him angry with me, my mother-in-law immediately accused me. Can't you tell he's embarrassed for me having to point out your shortcomings? You need to quit your job and do your job as a wife properly. This was my turn to slam my fork on the plate and leave the table. I couldn't take another word from her or I was going to lose my temper. And though she may deserve it, I didn't want to strain my husband more than was necessary right now. The pressure was becoming too much and I could sense he was going to blow his top soon. But a few days later, before we could sit with her to tell her to leave, I suddenly became ill at the dinner table. I barely made it to the bathroom in time. Ian looked concerned. I'll be fine. I just think something just didn't agree with my stomach. Go back and finish, I'll just rest up for a bit. I was finally able to convince him to return to his meal. As a precaution, I made a doctor's visit and learned why I had suddenly started feeling ill. I thought it was from stress and my nerves from having to navigate between my mother-in-law and my husband. But it wasn't that at all. I was pregnant. And though Ian and I hadn't consciously been trying, we knew we were just going to let nature take its course. It was just a bit sooner than we anticipated. But we were both elated by the news. But miraculously, as soon as we announced our good news, my mother-in-law became more tolerable, and I dare to say, more pleasant. It was such a shocking 180-degree turnaround, my husband and I secretly wondered if we had been misunderstanding his mother's intentions all along. One night Ian had to work overtime, so it was just me and my mother-in-law alone. She said, "I'm so happy to be having my first grandson. I guess you're not as useless as I first thought. But now you're definitely going to have to quit that meaningless job of yours. I won't let you neglect my grandson too. Are we back to this again? Can't we just have a decent meal without all of this? Besides, I don't know if I'm having a boy or a girl, so it's too premature to keep calling the baby grandson. Don't you think? Everyone in my family have had their male child first. It's our tradition. You definitely cannot be having a girl. If you do, well, she just won't be accepted, she said. I was shocked. What? What kind of nonsense is that? How can you say such a horrible thing? Instead of reconsidering her hurtful words, she doubled down on her venom. If that thing comes here and is a girl, I will not accept it into my family. It's either a boy or nothing. She pointed her fork at me from across the table. You, go and find out. It's not too late to get an abortion if it's a girl. Tomorrow, I'll take you and we'll find out. Are you serious right now? I will never do such a thing, and for such an asinine reason as that. You've crossed the line. I was finally letting it all out and began shouting back at her. For a brief moment, she looked bewildered that I had the audacity to raise my voice at her. But I was not going to let her get away with such evil twisted thinking. She slammed her hand on the table loudly, making the dishes jump up by the force. You hear me right now? If you think you're going to bring a girl into this family, without a boy first, you will be ostracized and kicked out. I will never accept a granddaughter first. It's a family tradition. We will go to the doctor tomorrow, and if it's a girl, we will swiftly deal with it. You're young. You just keep trying until you get it right. And oh, thank heaven my husband walked in at that moment and slammed the door so loudly we both jumped from being startled. We had been so engrossed in our fight, neither of us knew he had been standing there. For how long, I don't know. But long enough. Pack your bags and get out now. He pointed to his mother. What? You're kicking me out. What about her? She had the nerve to point her bony finger at me. Are you sick? Why would I be kicking out my own wife? She's been a saint putting up with you all this time, and all for my sake. Go. Pack your bags. But, how am I supposed to go now? My mother-in-law looked flustered and she was stumbling on her words. I don't know and I don't care. You get back home how you got here. I'm taking you to the train station and once that's done, that will be the last thing I do for you as your son. I will be cutting all ties with you from this point on. I had never seen Ian this angry before. And if I'm going to be honest, I was pretty relieved. Soon, it would be all over and her torture and evil will be a thing of the past. And good riddance, I say. It wasn't long before Ian had told his entire side of the family what happened and why he abruptly kicked his mother out of the house. They were under the impression that we had summoned her here, but that was all a lie. A few of his older relatives confessed they always suspected she was bitter when we got married and she would try something like this to destroy our marriage. My husband was her pride and joy and she didn't believe any woman was good enough for him. So it was expected that she would give, whoever had the misfortune to be her daughter-in-law, hell. It was a known fact in my husband's family that she could be a callous, evil witch. Their words, not mine. So though they found it odd that we would ask her to come while we were still in our honeymoon phase, was beyond their comprehension. They all knew that would be a recipe for a quick divorce. But because it was none of their affair, they just thought it best to mind their own business. Some said they regret not talking to us about it. But we assured them we were okay and our marriage was strong and there was no need to worry. They also couldn't believe the nonsense she was spouting about the firstborn being a male child. None of them ever heard of this family tradition before. They all concluded it was just another tactic she was using to bully me. In fact, Ian's family was so embarrassed, they kept coming to me to apologize on her behalf, for her hideous behavior. They were appalled at the notion that she was trying to convince me to get rid of the baby if it was a girl. Before long, the entire family ostracized her. She was no longer invited to family events because no one wanted to be associated with her. Even Ian's sister and brother-in-law cut her off. There was no way they wanted her poisonous thinking being passed to any future children they may have. It was a smart choice, something Ian and I had already discussed. No matter if the baby was a girl or a boy, she would never take part in their life. She was toxic and full of malice. To take our minds off of the events that was going on, Ian's sister decided a family event was in order to highlight the happiness we should be experiencing. We agreed. It was hard for me and Ian, because we wanted to know the gender, just out of curiosity more than anything. But my sister-in-law insisted even we shouldn't know. So, at my doctor's appointment when they would reveal the gender, they gave it only to my sister-in-law. She looked down at the small piece of paper in her hand and began to giggle, then she ripped the piece of paper, ensuring we'd never be able to find out. The big reveal was all planned out. Everyone was present. Well, everyone except my mother-in-law. She was not invited. My sister-in-law handed a torch-like stick to me and my husband. On the count of 3, reveal it and I'll take the picture. Get ready. Everyone count, 1, 2, 3. A plume of pink smoke was released into the air. Everyone applauded and cheered. It's a girl. They were shouting. My husband and I looked at each other surprised and happy. A few days later, Ian and I were lounging and talking and deciding on girl names. My phone pinged with a text message. Ian was closer so he picked it up. Before he handed me the phone, he read it. His brows furrowed together. I knew he was angry. What is it? What does it say? I reached for the phone for him to give it to me. It's no one. I'll take care of it, you are blocked. He picked up his phone and did the same thing. No more of that. Now, where were we? What about Catalina? Ian suggested as we continued our happy, life's journey in our mother-in-law free future. My husband walked over and kissed my belly. You are a blessing to your daddy. You have helped me to see my mother for who she really was, and to finally cut her poisoned apron strings. We later learned through family that Ian's parents were filing for divorce. His father was so embarrassed and appalled by her behavior, he cut all ties with her too. He knew he would be cut off by default because of his careless wife, so he decided it was best to finally unshackle himself from the evil woman that seemed to have no remorse or shame for what she had done. He was warmly invited back into the fold and got the chance to finally meet his beautiful granddaughter, Catalina.
Thank you for listening to my story. Come back for more stories and help our channel grow. Bye.